DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
It's time for Tuesday Night Live Chat with Brian S. Red and John Young. Now flipping there, it flipped over. You know, technology. We were doing so well, everything was lining up, and then all of a sudden it just pauses.
Of course.
Yeah. So let's try this again. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night here on DJN TV. I'm John Young, and tonight the one and only Brian S. Red is going to be dazzling us with his weekend activities.
Something like that.
Something like that.
If you say so.
Yes, we're going to have some fun tonight. So tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about having the right system for the event. This is a topic I think DJs are constantly, if it's not how many watts I need should have in my speakers, or should I take requests or not? Should I drink or not? Have a drink on the job? This is like right up there in the top 5 most common discussions, arguments, I would say.
Sure.
In that realm.
And I think you're right when you say arguments and discussions, because I don't believe it's an exact science.
I would highly agree, and that's going to be one of the few times we're going to actually agree in tonight's show, because I said I'm going to play the counterpoint.
Okay.
If you say right, I'm saying left, even if it is right.
And if I become like really agreeable with you,
then we know that the cold meds are kicking in. And it's like, well, this is what I think, John. No, I think this. Oh, well, I think that too, I guess.
That too.
And then, okay, well, that just didn't. So thank you guys for being with us tonight out there on YouTube and Facebook. I put the link up, I believe, for the YouTube, where we're going to be kind of following things. This is our main YouTube channel. You can pop out there with where we are on the Disc Jockey News channel, and that's where we're going to be talking about. And wait a second, why is this not? Why are we not getting? We are having. No, it's not. We're not showing up there. Edit settings. Where is this? It looks like it must be transmitting it to a new, must have gone to a new player.
Okay.
Is there a new player out there? And I need to find that. Okay, so if you're with us, Brian, it's being recorded and such there. So for those who weren't following along, I'll find out where everyone is or what's going on here. Give us a kind of a rundown of what kind of started this discussion with the sound system and such that you've been kind of sharing here in the last day or so.
Okay, well, to make a long story short, I was asked to do a school event, something I don't normally do, but I do enjoy doing this particular school, so I agreed to do it. And I told my agent, who was the one who got the gig, that the system I had really was only recommended for a maximum of 600 students, in a gym kind of thing. That's what everybody says. That's kind of what the EKX from EV states. This is what it's good for. 600, that's your max. You don't want to go any higher than that. 500 is ideal. And they said, no problem. I get the paperwork back on it, and it's 750. I'm like, ooh, well, that's over and above. But I'm familiar with the system. I've used it. I've worked in this room before that I'm going to be in, this gymnasium. And I made the judgment call that I think I'm going to be okay with the EKX after all. It turned out to be 800 plus students.
Wow.
And to make a long story short, everything went great. The students were happy. The sound was fine. I wasn't clipping the system. It worked. That's the meat and potatoes of what happened.
So let's kind of look at the system that you used.
Electro Voice, the EKX 12P tops, and I believe it's the 15 SP subs.
You had the 15-inch and not the 18-inch.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I opted for the 15s just because it's easier for a guy like me to carry.
So one of the things I saw numerous people make comments to when you showed the picture of the setup and such, they were like, well, if you would stack the subs and kind of link them together, that there would be more. What was your thinking behind the stacking of the subs or the placement of the subs in your
Well,
configuration?
I don't know the voodoo involved in coupling subs like I should, or even phasing them. Ben, every time I think I understand it, Ben lets me know that I don't. But at any rate, the theory is if I got at least this part right, if you couple your subwoofers, it's louder.
Yes.
I don't know how much louder, but it's louder. At any rate, I didn't want to do that. And the reason I didn't want to do that is because I was pushing the system beyond what it's supposed to be doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like the tops and the subs were pretty well balanced in that regard. So if I would have coupled the subs, I feel like there would have been more boom than high. So I decided not to do that.
Okay.
There was actually another reason that I didn't mention in any of my video or media or anything I've done. They really wanted me to build a barrier between the students and the stage door,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
a physical barrier. So I was trying to spread out as far as I could to create that barrier. But yeah, I mean, I considered coupling them, but once I got in there and did the sound test, I'm like, you know what? I think it's good. If I did the coupling, my bass might be a little much for what my tops are producing. It might feel bass heavy compared to what the tops are doing, if that makes sense.
Now, when you place the height of the tops, were you kind of wanting to have a specific height with where the horn and the woofer were with the tops, or did you just kind of do a traditional height with that?
You mean just getting the top cabs up in the air?
Yep. Huh.
I was just getting them as high up as I can. I mean, and with the Frankenstans, it's a little shy of 6 feet, but it's close to it.
Okay.
So I just put them up as high as I could. And my way of thinking with any time I set up a top cab on a tripod is I'd like to get that horn above what would reasonably be the tallest person in the room's head. I mean, if somebody walks in who's 8 feet tall, you got a problem.
Yeah.
But you know, as long as everybody's kind of relatively normal, 6'6" and under, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my theory on that. The higher the better with that. It seems to travel better and all that kind of fun stuff.
So
And then go ahead.
yeah, so you were 15 subs, the 12 tops. You had 800 kids, and you felt that covered the room quite well.
Yeah, it was fine. Despite what anyone tells you, it was fine.
Mm-hmm. And the kids, they were enjoying, and there weren't anybody, oh, get more bass or anything to that effect?
No. In fact, I asked one of the guy, the organizer, I don't know who he was, as far as his real job at the school, but he was the organizer of the event. I asked him, does it sound okay? He says, yeah, you can even turn it down a little bit. And then when the event was over, there was a group of girls that were kind of hanging out. And I walked up to them and said, hey, I got a question. And they kind of, oh, no, And I said, did it sound okay? I said, well, yeah, we liked the music. I said, no, I'm not asking you that. Did it sound okay to you? And I, oh, yeah. I said, was it loud enough? Oh, it was plenty loud. And one girl said, we're used to DJs coming in here with more of that high sound. And I think she was talking about mid-range.
Okay.
And you didn't have that. I said, no, I turned it down. I said, I try to do that because I feel like an excessive mid-range, could cause you some problems here. And, I don't want you to walk out of here with your ears ringing. I want this to sound good, not I don't want it to be painful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one girl said, well, it's okay. I'm already half deaf. And I said, look, I don't want to be the one that contributes to the second half of your hearing loss. So I care about your little ears, and that's why I do what I do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no one had any complaints. 3 hours of dancing, like heavy duty. And these aren't kids who do like the hip hop stuff where they just stand there. These are kids that want to hear House of Pains jump around and Darude Sandstorm and that kind of stuff. That's what they respond well to. Call Me Maybe, Party in the USA, Wannabe, the fun stuff,
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like doing the school, because they're not just about Yo Gotti or, whatever. So, yeah, it was high energy dancing for 3 hours. 800 plus students, no problem. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody out there with an EKX system can pull this off. And I think that's what some people got out of my initial video. What I'm suggesting is that I was familiar enough with the system and the room to make the judgment call that I felt like it would work out okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that anybody can go into any space and entertain 800 plus students. And that has a lot to do with everything from the space to the music you're playing to your sound objectives to what kind of signal you're running into the speaker in the first place. Is it clean? Is it not clean? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running a clean signal, and it worked. So that's kind of what happened this weekend. But this isn't the first time.
Certainly not.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, you're certainly not. You've been creative when it comes to sound applications of using different speakers for different events.
Right. Now part of it is, I think this is going to work. Based on what I've done in the past, I think this will be fine. And the other part of it is just having the kahunas to do it in the first place. And I don't want to do anything that's completely irresponsible. I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. I don't want to do anything that's going to, really be detrimental to the event. But if I've got confidence that something's going to work, I do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that confidence is not based on a wing and a prayer. It's based on, some experience with the system and knowing the system.
For sure. And
so that's it. I mean, really, that's it in a nutshell. And I put a video up probably about an hour and a half ago where I talked about some other systems that I've done this with, where manufacturers and end users and salespeople have said, nope, it's only good for this, it's not good for that. But I made the judgment call and the assessment based on my experience with the system and went above and beyond what they felt like it was good for. And it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, John, I think a lot of this has to do with whatever your particular sound objectives happen to be. And everyone has different sound objectives. There are people who want to go into a school dance and they want to give them like this heavy club experience.
Yep.
I think that is great. And that's what you should do if, A, you have the system to do it, and B, the school has the budget to pay you to bring that system in.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, because what happens is a lot of these, look, there are schools out there that will pay several $1,000s to bring in these big productions for proms and homecomings and things. They exist. They exist in Chicago. Was it Boom Entertainment down there?
Yep.
They do outrageous stuff. And good for them. I'm not Boom Entertainment. And I'm not going to command several $1,000s to come in and do a homecoming.
Yeah.
But I might get $1,000 or $750 or something on a night where I have nothing else going on. But that doesn't mean that I can afford to bring in Boom Entertainment sound reinforcement.
Certainly not, yeah.
And if the school's willing to pay for it, let's do it. But if the school's not willing to pay for it, we got to make a compromise somewhere. We got to give them what they paid for. And in this particular case, as far as I know, all the math adds up that my agent and the client understood what this system was capable of when I walked in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and I underestimated it, which I'd rather do than overestimate it. When I just, disclose, hey, look, just so you know, this is what it's supposed to be for. That'll be fine. Is kind of the response that I got from everybody. That'll be fine, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it would be. Everybody else did too, and no one complained. No one said turn it up. In fact, John, there's only one time in my entire career when I've ever had a situation where somebody walked up to me and said it's not loud enough. It happened once. And I remember this gig. I was downtown Milwaukee at what is now the Hilton. And they've got this giant ballroom on like the 5th floor or whatever. It's massive. And I got thrown under the bus kind of gig. Hey, do you want to do a gig for Hertz Rent-A-Car? Yeah, sure, I'll do a gig for Hertz Rent-A-Car. This doesn't sound like a big deal. No, 1,200 people.
Oh.
And they wanted to party. And at the time, my system was not up to the task. and my amps weren't up to the task. I blew everything up. I walked out of there. I think I might have had like 2 mid horns that worked, and that was it. I smoked everything in that system. I cooked the amps. I cooked the drivers on everything. I'll never forget it. And I was
Wow.
trying so hard just to get sound in that room,
Mm-hmm.
but there were so many people. No, I mean, I learned my lesson that day. We can't do this anymore.
Yep.
And that's when I think that's the event where I really wanted to know about Ohm's law, because not everybody uses power speakers at the time. We're still in the
Oh,
passive.
yeah, certainly, yeah.
So, but that's the only time it ever happened, and it was because everything was blowing up, and I wasn't using a good system. Powered speakers, it's beautiful, and as far as I'm concerned, from a guy who does YouTube videos, it's wonderful because I don't have to explain to anybody how to pair speakers with amplifiers anymore.
Yep.
It's just there. So all you have to do, when they say, "Hey, I do 150 person weddings every week, and what system should I get?" And it's like, dude, you got options.
Lots of, yeah.
This one, this one, this one, this one. Pick a duck, buy it, and enjoy. I don't have to go into any explanation or anything else. It's nice.
Just following the chat here. They've been talking about subwoofers and different things from QSC and what have you with that. There was something actually I wanted to get to up here. Jimmy talking about using an old Bose system. Dwayne. Dwayne mentioned that Dwayne went out and just started out and wanted to get something that would have flexibility. So Dwayne went out and bought a ETX 12-inch two-way tops. He bought two tops, and he bought an 18-inch sub. Oh, my video's really, there we go. He bought the 18-inch sub to go with that, so he could run with the two tops when he needed to. He could add the sub when he needed to, and being its ETX, it could handle a lot of capability. So
right,
a great intelligent purchase, because then he can add as he goes and really create a killer sound system. So
52 vents that big. I mean,
there. That's the thing is, that QSC, or excuse me, QSC, the EV system with that sub. First off, it's heavy and it's big. That can do a lot, and it will be able to add that second sub, and that's going to easily handle that crowd like you were experiencing or more.
Yeah, well, okay, so you're telling me that this guy bought an ETX rig from Electro Voice.
Correct.
Because he wanted a versatile system.
Wanted to make sure that he was not throwing money away. Is really, I think,
right.
what we were seeing from that.
Sure. Now here's where we're gonna part ways, and I know that's your plan anyway. So you're smiling. You're like, yeah. Here's my thoughts on that, and this is based on experience, and actually knowing people who have bought ETX systems. ETX systems are wonderful if you do 800 plus student events, giant events, big concerts, big sound events. If that's what you do on a consistent basis, then that's a great system for you. However, if you're doing 150 person wedding receptions, most of the time, and then once in a while, you're doing a 500-600 kid school event, and there's only one system you can buy, I argue that the EKX is a better system. And the reason being is it's capable of doing that wedding without overpowering it. And it's capable of that 500-600 kid school dance without an issue. So that's how I think I would recommend someone going about buying a system like this. It's more that, to me, for what I do, for the types of events that I do, primarily the smaller events, but sometimes the big ones, I think the EKX is a much, much wiser purchase. That's just me.
And to follow your school of thought, that what Dwayne paid for those 3 speakers, you could have gotten all 4, so you'd have had 2 tops and 2 subs in the EKX realm. But on the flip side, if Dwayne's ultimate goal is to get into, and he mentioned school dances, is to get into more of those school dances, that's going to be a system that's going to give him more headroom as he's going forward, and more potential for larger events down the road.
No, at the school that I just did this party for, like 3 years ago, I did one there for 1,200 kids in a field house. Wow. And we used my friend's ETX system. Not the EK, but the ET. Mm-hmm. I didn't own the EKX yet, I don't think. And it was great. It worked We also used it at Kohl's department store.
Yeah, yeah.
They're based here in the Milwaukee area. We did a Kohl's corporate event with two groups of 2,000 people with that system, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing party games with it, and there were all kinds of microphones and things on it. Now, the guy who owned that system was really excited about buying it because he'd heard the sales pitch and he heard how capable it was and all this stuff.
Right.
Unfortunately, the only two times the guy used the system were the two times that I used it. Could not find an event that was big enough to justify bringing that rig to that he booked himself. So he sold it. And that's why I don't have access to it anymore.
Yeah. And I could definitely see why he wouldn't use it. Not that they aren't a good quality sound system.
Right.
They are just a heavy beast. The 18-inch sub in that ETX line is a big box. I mean, it is.
Well, it's not just the weight. It's the aggressiveness of the system itself.
And then of course it feels like you're just, you're not even warming the speakers up, and you're playing at a very high volume.
Okay, not that I would ever do this, okay? But if I were to light a cigarette, okay, I'd use a cigarette lighter. That would be the thing to use to light a cigarette. A flamethrower would not be the thing to use to light a cigarette. It would burn my face off, and it would destroy the cigarette. That's how I see the ETX at 150-person wedding reception. It's a flamethrower when you should have had a cigarette lighter.
An interesting analogy there, or visual, but okay, we'll go with that.
Dude, I'm just thinking out loud here. It's what I have in front of me. Not that I have a flamethrower in front of me, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, certainly.
Yeah, it's you need to use the right tool for the job, I feel, and I just don't believe that's the right tool for a small event. But however, the EKX I think is flexible enough to go. I mean, okay, let's just say reasonably up to 600 people. Okay, 800. That was based on my personal experience in the room, in the school, and my sound objectives. Mm-hmm. But for most people's reasonable sound objectives, I think you can do the EKX for 150-person wedding reception and that 600-kid school dance. In that regard, it's more versatile because it's not as harsh and aggressive. And it weighs less. You're right. And it costs less. You're right. But it's also more versatile.
And it is a good sounding sound system. So for those of you thinking I'm dissing the EKX, that's what we're using those Friday night. Friday night we're gonna have two EKX systems out. Michael's gonna have one. I'm gonna have another. We're gonna be doing homecoming dances. So
have you ever ran those side by side just to compare
the ET and the EK?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. And probably the biggest thing that I found difference. Obviously ETX can get me a little louder. Is the throw?
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you there. It's the throw. The ETX seems to have more of a directional throw, and it seems to throw farther. The EKX seemed to be a little bit wider. Whether that's real or perceived, that's what it sounded like to me.
Well, I think that you're probably right, and I think that's happening at a certain volume level. Mm-hmm. Because if I adjust my mixing board to hit 0 dB on master when I'm at 8 on the fader, right? That's how I try to set my system up. And when I run music, if I've got it set up like that, and I start moving my line fader up, I found that the ETX and the EKX sound almost identical. If you're using a 12 top and a 15 bottom, until you get to about 6, and then the ETX pulls away like it's supercharged, and you get all this volume and all this throw. But sound quality wise, it felt very similar.
Yeah,
if not the same. I know it's not, but to my ear, it sounded the same up until that point, and then it got crazy. So,
just following. And Rick mentions, of course, preferring the ETX because he doesn't feel like he has to push those quite as hard as some of the other lines. But he's also doing much bigger events than you and I are primarily wedding guys.
Sure.
I want to dig back into. You mentioned. You've kind of alluded a little bit to it during our talk, and you mentioned earlier is that part of the success of what you did on Saturday with that sound system is that you knew the sound system and you had it set up properly for your objectives. Kind of take us through what kind of things that you did to set that sound system up for the event.
Well, I will say this: I set it up. I set it to where I thought it would be optimum, and it worked. So. The only thing I did was, so typically on the newer speakers, And for those of you who are using like power speakers from 6, 7 years ago, it might not be the case. But on the newer stuff, the volume knob's different. It's not like 1 through 10 on the volume.
Mm-hmm.
5 is like 0 dB. If you turn it down, it's minus dB. If you turn it up, it's plus dB, right?
Yep.
So um, what I did was I normally keep the speaker at 0 dB, by the way,
Okay.
because I like that. Sounds good to me. Let's go
Mhm.
0 dB. We're not overdriving the speaker or anything else. I put the volume at plus 3 dB on the speakers. So I brought it up a little bit,
Yep.
which if you were dealing with a regular dial was probably something close to 6.5. I'm guessing.
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't like 8 or whatever. It was
Yep.
it was under 7 or less. Um, that and with the uh, the mixing board and the files that I was using, I was very cautious. I mean, okay, because I've got some older files, some older rips of CDs that I did a long time ago off of CDs that were probably from the 80s
Okay.
or early 90s. I knew I'd be playing these songs. There's just certain songs that you play at these events.
Yeah.
And before I shouldn't say it. Let me just kind of get my head straight here. In preparation for the event, the older tracks, I went out and made an effort to find a digitally remastered version of those songs, like a recent version of those songs
Mm-hmm.
that was a cleaner file
Sure.
than what I
get
own.
that. Yep.
Because the cleaner the file I can send through this system, and the cleaner the signal I can send to the speakers, the better they're going to perform. If I come out there and I start playing anything less than 320K MP3s, or if I start playing files that uh, maybe aren't remastered or don't sound great or have a lot of hiss in them,
Mm-hmm.
pushing the system like I was pushing it, it'd be very obvious. So clean files, clean signal, very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
That I did in preparation, early on in the game. And again, it all worked out fine.
Yeah.
I was really concerned with my Tiffany, I Think We're Alone Now. Because I had a very old rip of it. I really wanted to play it. So I downloaded a remastered version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't have any success with it. I'll tell you that right now. I made 3 bets with myself at that gig. And one of the bets was this system will work. The other bet was I could set it up myself. I won that bet. I could break it down, I could haul it, whatever. And the third bet I lost, which was Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now will be hot at a school dance.
You thought it was going to fly.
Well, it was in Umbrella Academy. It was a big song, and that's a relatively new show, and it's pretty popular. So I was kind of looking at it like Brandy's Looking Glass, or Looking
Yeah.
Looking
at
Glass,
Brandy.
or Brandy by Looking Glass, because Brandy's hot. So I think maybe this will be hot. Nope. I mean, they were politely dancing to it, but I knew they weren't into it. I got out of it and into something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, clean files, clean signal going to the speakers, very important. No matter what, but especially important if you're going to try to really push your system. Make sure it's clean, because if you come at it with junk, it's going to sound like junk, no matter what you do.
Hurricane, we'll get to that topic in just a second here. So I want to make sure we'll hit that one before we wrap up tonight.
I've seen that pop up a couple times. Talking about mono and stereo, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Actually, let's just jump there, because I was gonna transition to the points applications and such for our line array systems.
Sure,
that's where I was gonna.
We'll get back to that.
Okay, I was just reading that. So, let's stick on the speakers, and then we'll come back to the stereo mono. So, the right tools for the job is certainly important. But as we've been using some of our kind of mini line arrays, for lack of a better way to describe that, whether it's the Evolve 50 is not a huge line array system by any means.
No, it's not.
It's a nice little portable array system, and does its thing. And of course, you've had opportunity to utilize a few in the field, and I've had opportunities to use that. The Jimmy and I were talking actually today, for those of you, Jimmy Spin in the chat room, and he was talking about, is it possible to utilize 4 of them and do them at a high school dance where you're basically encompassing the dance floor? And as I was thinking about it, I think there are certainly different possibilities where that could be a wonderful sound system for a high school dance.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think for a dance, I really prefer something horn loaded. I mean, I don't like it for my weddings, but well, I've used them for weddings for years, but now that I'm gone compact array, I prefer the full range drivers up there for weddings. It's just cleaner. But for longer throws and a lot of people in the room, I really do like the horn loaded stuff for that. I just prefer it.
And that's interesting because everyone who would, or most of the people who would be like down, oh, that wouldn't work for a school, they wouldn't be looking at the tops. They're looking at that sub.
Oh, I don't care about the sub.
That sub's not big enough for a high school. Yeah, it's not going to give us enough bass for the situation.
It's about sound objectives. It really is. I mean, you put too much bass in a gymnasium. I don't know. I was talking to Jay Brennan about this today when it comes to bass. And there are going to be people out there that hate me for saying this. But I think there's a really good possibility that too much bass can exhaust people quick.
I would agree tremendously.
And I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm not trying to put them to bed. I'm trying to show them a good time. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to fatigue anybody. I want them to walk out of there feeling good. And I don't know, throwing like bass boss at him or something for 3 hours is going to be physically exhausting for everybody. It's going to be hard on the ears, hard on the body. It's just overstimuli. And I, if you're a young person who loves bass, I'm sorry. I'm an old guy who also likes bass, and I've got an FBT 12-inch powered subwoofer under my desk. Don't tell me I don't like bass. I love bass. But at a school dance, God, man, come on. I mean, I don't want to kill anybody here. And I want a well-balanced system, too. New music I know is bass heavy. And I know it's kind of the bass wars and the volume wars with a lot of the new tracks. But at the event that I did, I wasn't doing a lot of new tracks. I did some just because it's expected, but most of it I was doing younger people stuff. Or older music. I'm sorry. I was doing classic party stuff, and they liked it. Stuff you hear at sporting events or stuff you hear at a normal party, they responded best to that.
Yeah.
So I didn't need this thing. I don't know, this big bass thing. I don't need all that bass. I don't care about all that bass. Yeah, punchy mid bass is better. Jimmy's a few years older than I am, but we're kind of the same age, and I'm agreeing with him. Punchy bass is good. That boom, 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 the ooh, that gets exhausting.
Oh, it really does.
If it's like,
if it's overwhelming, and if you guys have ever been to a convention when you go into some of these speaker sound demo rooms and they have got huge bass going on, or in NAMM we experience the same thing. If you're in there for like 5 minutes, I don't know how these product specialists can be in there that long, because it will, in some cases, make you feel nauseous, because it is just pounding through you, and it's like, I don't feel well. I'm going to go outside.
That could screw with my stomach. I know I get messed up just driving around my neighborhood. If I've got to go to Walgreens, I got to turn around and spin around and go to the gas station and turn around and spin around, let alone having that just beating my body up for several hours. I'm not into it.
Yeah.
But, punchy bass is good. You want to feel it, but you don't want it to physically move you. Like, a bass hit once in a while is a lot of fun. Once in a while, it's just this big bass note comes in. It's fun. But if you're getting bombarded by it constantly, that's when I feel like it's just overkill. But no, I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on this stuff, and it's also about your sound objectives. That's a big thing.
Very much so.
Your sound objectives.
So let's jump into that stereo or mono, the discussion that has been going around. Excuse me. What are your thoughts with that?
I run stereo. I think it sounds better. It sounds cleaner. You can make the argument that, older songs, like, have you ever You ever like played "You Shook Me All Night Long"
Oh, certainly. And
and then like a speaker like isn't working and you can't hear the guitar? It's like what's going on? And all of a sudden she was a fast machine. You're like, what happened here? Where's the guitar part? Or the vocal's gone because all you hear is a guitar part.
so going back to when we had CD players, and
Yeah,
we
I
had
mean when they
our
were
our
just going
board.
like
Our board was set to mono because that's the way we've done it forever. So our DJs would set that to mono. But if one of the two wires wasn't connected from the CD player to the mixer, or if
yeah,
the balance knob was turned on the mixer, because we had the Vestex that
right.
could do that, that was probably the most noticeable. And the Beatles, Twist and Shout, because
Yeah. A
everything's
lot of
one
the
side.
stereo stuff is funny.
And it's like, I remember the first time I played and had this experience. It was "You Shook Me All Night Long," and I had that exact. It's like, there's something not. What's going on? Why am I?
Yeah.
Where's the? And I'm
All you hear is
looking.
boom, boom,
And
boom.
yeah,
And then she starts singing, and it's like because the guitar's on the other speaker. Drums and vocals are on one, guitar's on the other. It's
and yet,
goofy.
and once the vocals kick in, then people are singing along to it. But yet you're not getting and you're like, okay, how do I fix this? How can I? Maybe I should restart. Maybe I can't do that. The people they're singing. What is it? Is it
Right.
cables?
What do I do?
Yeah. What do you?
In the old days, I used mono a lot because of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I don't. And the reason I don't is because I've got good dispersion on both sides. So it doesn't matter where you're sitting, you're going to hear my speakers, especially with the array stuff, because the dispersion is really good on those. It's not like I'm on this side of the room, so I'm not hearing what's going on the other side. No, you are hearing everything. And it does clean things up if a file is stereo, and even if it's like a pan or like Bar mentioned pans. Pans sound great. Like who's that kid that I really like? Zed.
Hmm.
The stuff he produces. If you listen to it, like if I sit here, because you can't see any of this stuff in this video, but I've got really nice monitors on either side of my desk here, and I just sit here and listen to music sometimes.
Sure.
And if I listen to a Zed track, it's like wow, because it's bouncing back and forth and it's fun. I don't think that there's necessarily a reason to do stereo bass separation, but when it comes to highs and mids, yeah, it cleans it up. And if you want to talk about sound quality, think about this. If you've got a song like "You Shook Me All Along," for instance, okay? If you have one speaker doing the guitar part and one speaker doing the drums and vocals, neither one of those speakers has to work as hard to do what they're doing. And they're doing what they're doing pretty well.
There is that.
But if you make both speakers do the exact same thing, they're multitasking. There's going to be some kind of what do you want to call it? The sound's going to degrade somewhat. It has to, because it's doing too many things. It's going to be able to do one thing better than it's going to be able to do multiple things. So I don't know. I prefer stereo. And if I am running my system and I got it cranked up and I got a stereo mono switch on my mixing board, I'll try it once in a while just to see. If I flip it to mono, it doesn't sound as good. If I flip it to stereo, it wakes up. It just sounds better. And I believe it's louder.
Yeah, and I've always mono's been the direction, and our biggest because of the early days when it was the two.
Yeah.
And then you look at generally people are dancing in front of one speaker or they're dancing in front of the other speaker. There's not too often that they're dancing in that sweet spot, and partially because of running the tops and subs, that there's a dead spot in the middle of the dance floor, or somewhere in that mid to front level or front area of the dance floor. So you have people dancing to the right or to the left, or they're dancing a little farther back. Well, if they're dancing farther back, they probably would hear sound from both speakers, but generally they're going to hear that speaker or that speaker. And yeah, you mentioned dispersion, that our array systems will do that.
Yeah.
John,
try it. Just humor me and try it.
Oh, I did. I actually, when we went to the Denon boards, I've tried it on a couple of different occasions because it has the switch in the front, so you flip the switch and go that route, and then there's that time where it's like, okay, so I'm gonna jump sound out of that speaker, and I want to jump that to the other end of the room for dinner type things, and it's like, well, then I'm for surely wanting to be in mono, so I don't have.
Yeah. In that case, you would.
Yeah, so it's just became one of those things that it's been, well, when when I did the 8,000, I ran the 8,000 for a couple of shows before Michael took it. I tried it with that. And then when I had the 7,000, I tried it with that, with a show, just to see if I'd, feel a difference. And, when we played the You Shook Me All Night Long, I could show, I think it was Michael was with me at the time. And it's like, now listen to this song.
Check this out.
Yeah. Listen to this. Stand right here and listen.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with your computer, Dad. No. It's not that.
Yeah. Must be.
Yeah. That's just the way it was. So.
So I was talking to Jay earlier. He's in the room.
Yeah,
What's
I see
up,
that.
Jay? Jay Brannon Entertainment. And we were talking about the sound objective thing and knowing your system. Jay had some great insight on this. And usually, if there's something that is DJ related, sound related, or performance related, doesn't matter what it is, Jay's a great guy to talk to because he has something to contribute. And I sometimes when Jay's talking to me, I'm like, dude, shut up. This time I was just all ears. I was listening to everything he said because if Jay has
pants
some really
on,
good knowledge and some really very articulate ways to express his views on this. And one thing that he was saying I mean, he said a lot of things, but one thing was that he said, look, if I'm DJing an event and you and your daughter are in the audience and you're sitting at a table off the dance floor and having a conversation, if you're screaming at each other or can't hear each other, I'm not doing my job. Because my job is to provide music to the dance floor and listening levels to the rest of the room. So no one has ever told me that I'm too loud. No one's ever told me to turn it up. And I get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with them. I'm with them on that. And again, knowing your system, knowing your sound objectives, Jay's really good at this. He's got it. He was also talking about a beach party he did. And I probably have it all wrong, but it was this big beach party, and he showed up. He was told to bring the smaller system to come, and he came, and it turned out to be like a lot of people, like almost 1,000 people. He's like, oh no, what do I do? But it worked out fine because the organizer knew that they wanted music for the dance floor, because they had a dance floor built on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want it everywhere else. So he was doing what he was supposed to do. Yes, it was a several hundred person event, but only dance floor sound. And several hundred people weren't on the dance floor at once. So it worked out. He understood what he had to do. He got it. And he's giving us specifics now.
Yeah, he's going through. I was going to see if Jay wanted to.
No one has ever said not loud enough.
I was wanting to see if Jay wanted to jump in and share a couple of his thoughts here. That's why I made the statement how he caught it.
Oh. Yeah, come on in, Jay. We got some time. So
yeah, Brian's his sinus meds are kicking in now, so he's ready to go.
Oh yeah. And let me just take care of it.
Yep. Gee, I'm going to send you the link via Facebook Messenger here.
No, I mean, not to build it up or anything, but I mean, this guy works for Pioneer. You know, they do speakers, they do mixing boards, they do a lot of things. So he works professionally for a company that does pro sound in our industry.
And that's really what I was hoping that he'd be able to share, is that you mentioned knowing your sound system, and he's obviously works with a lot of different gear, and how that all comes together for him.
Right. No, he can articulate this really well. So we might go over a few minutes, but that's what happens.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It's stereo, mono, whatever works for you. I run stereo. I think it sounds cleaner, especially with my arrays. I don't think I'm robbing anybody from anything running mono. The only time I really run mono is if I'm running a single speaker, which happens sometimes. Like if I'm running like the LD Maui 5 Go, just one speaker, of course it's mono. It's one speaker. I can't make one speaker stereo. No matter what they tell you, it's still mono.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't know. It's all kind of depends on how familiar you are with your system.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part, and that's one of the, in our case, we get people send a speaker system out, and they're like, hey, Brian, hey, here's a go use this at a couple of shows and tell us what you think of it.
Yeah.
And there's a point in me that, yeah, that seems like it's such a cool thing. And before I was doing it, I thought, that's got to be so awesome, getting this new gear to go and be taking out on a regular basis. The more I do it, the less I like it, because
it's more work.
You don't get comfortable with using something and knowing how it's going to respond. And I miss that. Because do I with my subs? Okay, I'm playing a little bit louder. I'm going to be playing, Tootsie Roll, and I knew with my old sound system I used to run back in the day that I would have to start to take the lows down a little bit, otherwise it would get really boomy. I've the little nuances like that I've lost because these speakers sound crappy. Oh, that's right. And instead of being proactive, I'm now reactive.
Well, I put my foot down after my incident 8 years ago when I built the micro system, because what I used to do was, weekly, the system would change.
Yeah.
The light show would change, the speaker system would change, the mixing board would change, because I was out testing things, which was a lot of fun at first until it got to the point where I can't just not think about the system. When I built the micro system, it was like, you know what? It's the same thing every week. I get it. I built it. It's easy. I don't got to think about it. I got to think about other things like music and... Oops. Hi, Jay.
There he is. Get some audio, Jay.
I get it. I don't. There it is.
There it is. He'll get the thing.
He's going to go. Just wind him up and watch him go.
I had to move computers. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. So Jay, what I wanted you to kind of chime in a little bit about is obviously you are a product person with Pioneer. You have used a lot of the different gear, and one of the big things that we were just headed to with this is when we ran the same gear all the time, we became familiar with it and how it responded. How in your situation, because I'm sure you're using different speakers for the different events that you do. How have you've been able to, in essence, master these different sound systems somewhat quickly enough to be proficient with them?
I think a lot of times, since things are running kind of a big setting, we tend to go mono. And I noticed some people made comments about clubs and bigger things, you go mono. I learned years ago to go from stereo to mono because of a Beatles song for First Dance. And the speakers were split. And I was only getting, most of my setups are 6 feet wide because I've got a table and then speakers on either side. I think the next wedding I do, I'll try running stereo.
Yeah, try it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for the most part, we as a standard, I'll go in and set Serato and I'll set the mixer to both run in stereo or run in mono. I'm sorry. Just because I know I'm getting the same amount of sound out of both sides. And a lot of times I only use one speaker, something like a ceremony. So I'll go mono left side.
Right.
And I think actually you and I years ago talked about if you run mono with one speaker, always go in the left channel.
Yes.
So I started doing that a long time ago. Now, looking at bad setups, good setups, whatever, I know people tend to be, I'm going to do a line array here, a line array there. I've been running one speaker for ceremonies for about 13 years. Never heard a word. No complaints. I'm playing Vitamin Strings Prelude, Here Comes the Bride or Air or whatever, and then a microphone. And that's because I want to keep the lowest profile I can. I've never set up on the front where the bride and groom are. I've always set up in the back because then the speaker throws music towards the people speaking and they tend to raise their voice against where their sound is.
The way I always kind of looked at that too, Jay, is, setting up in the back, the reason I always thought it was ideal was because somebody up front's going to be able to hear what's happening.
Exactly.
Someone in the back is less likely to hear what's happening, so let's give them the hottest signal of audio.
Right. And you get that sweet spot. I did 9 years as a resident at a hotel where every wedding was on the roof. So I learned there using a lavalier sounded terrible. So what I've always done is have one microphone set about a foot below everybody. So it's in the middle of the bride, the groom, and the officiant, but it's a foot lower. And that way, when they speak, it drops and it picks them up. And I've done it on the beach in Santa Barbara. I've done it on the beach in LA and San Diego. And it always works really well because, again, it just picks up the speaking voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to worry about, can they hear themselves? They can because the speakers are going towards them.
Right.
So the sound is going front. They're talking back. And they actually will level their own voice out.
Right. No, I think you're right.
Too soft. You need to make it easy on people that are not professional speakers who have to speak in an important setting once.
Right.
They
this
know what
is
they're doing.
One off for them.
Another thing, for what it's worth, starting in 2020, I've already told all my clients, from now on, all toasts, like here in SoCal, we do the toast 3/4 of the way through the dinner. So the bride and groom are at a sweetheart table or a head table, and then the person speaking stands next to him, and it's 99% a sweetheart table. Starting in 2020, the toasters will be given a microphone on a stand because I'm sick of the microphone's here and now it drifts down here, goes out there. You can't hear them. People say, I can't hear you. So to make everyone's life easier, because they're all reading off a phone or a note, the mic will be set right where they stand and they can speak to the mic and they force themselves to talk into it. There's no worry about it being dropped. I mean, you're still going to get the tap, which I don't understand. Tapping on a microphone. Can you hear? Is this on? Is the same as me punching you in the ear. Can you hear me?
Can I just throw something out at you here? If you're going to put the mic on a stand, have you considered going with something that's clutched, like the gravity stand, where it's like a real easy up, easy down thing?
Funny you say that. That's exactly what I'm going to buy. Just for that reason. So I'm not like...
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. If you show people that all you have to do is squeeze it
and it goes up,
they're like, oh my God, it's voodoo, it's magical. It's like, well, no, it's just a clutch. So...
got to make it easy on them. But I think the fear of dropping the mic, and I know I've seen this on Facebook, a lot of people are like, oh, somebody dropped the mic. I don't get that. And I kind of tell people ahead of time, hold it right here, and then I'll take it, because it drops.
No, my observation, I've seen the sweetheart table one time in my career.
For real.
It's still the long table, and the mic gets passed down the line. And then the dad is like in front of the table at a prime spot, kind of in front of people, and he stands up and does his thing, kind of in front of the table. We don't have that. It just hasn't happened here with the sweetheart table thing. It's still everywhere. It probably has to do with the banquet halls, just what they recommend people do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at all the photos of people that have a facade and speakers and then a facade behind them with, cascading lights and speakers and facades for days. Like how? Like I don't get that at all. They've got 30 feet to the wall. Sweetheart tables. But even that aside, I think making it easy for sound, because that's the complaint. It's not loud enough when they speak. But like I said to you today on the phone, not once, any event, it's not loud enough. And the one that you mentioned at the beach, I was just providing sound for the dance floor. That was the job I had at the time. Right. So bringing 4 tops and 8 subs would have been great if I needed to fill the sound for the room. And I mean, let's be honest, 215 speakers outside at good volume, you can hear what you're playing 50, 60 feet away. It's not loud, but you can hear it.
Yeah.
If it's your favorite song, you can come running forward and dance.
Right.
That's the deal. I tell every client, no one's ever said I'm not loud enough, and you and your mom should be able to talk 10 feet off the dance floor in a normal tone of voice.
Right.
Because otherwise, I fail. I'm not there to provide sound for the room. I'm there to provide speaking sound, background sound, which is always lower, and then dance sound for a dance floor that might be 10 by 10.
I gave you a shout out in a video that I posted about 2 hours ago.
Oh, cool.
And talking about the conversation we had and that, you You said exactly what you just said. If my daughter and I can't have a conversation at a table off the dance floor at an event that you're doing, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I
really
don't
important.
think, even if you're
I don't believe it either.
yeah, if you're in a square room, I still think it's your obligation as the DJ to provide sound for everything for speaking, sound for cocktails, sound for dinner. But when dancing starts, I also think it's our job to break the sound into a square. Let them hear it around the room so they can go, I love this song, but let them say that to each other in that tone of voice. Don't have it be, wow, man, I'm blasting out the room. I got 2 dual 18s and 4 tops. Fail.
Yeah.
And then, like I said to you, I understand why you need a sub based on the quality of sound that people are accustomed to. I just rented that new Dodge Ram 1500, and it had better bass than most weddings I've done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the? And then you realize you do need that. So a single 15 and 2 10-inch tops, and that's my sound for up to 200 people.
Nice.
Hey, John, would you like to get a word in edgewise?
No,
Oh, sorry. Is John still there?
Yeah.
I thought he left.
Yeah, I was just taking a nap here. Actually, we're going to probably have to wrap things up. It looks like we're having some buffering issues here a little bit.
No.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're recording. We can put it up later.
So, well, it should be. They said it's bounced in and out a couple of times here. So I don't know if I'm still having problems with our lightning strike a couple of weeks ago, because we've replaced. I think we're up to 6 or 7 different things now we've replaced so far.
So before we go, I just want to say, see those Kylie Minogue albums behind me?
I do.
There's only 3 I own. So if anybody has any Kylie that they could add to my collection, let me know.
I was really surprised he
I'm
only
just saying.
owned 3.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised too. But it's Kylie Minogue. How many singles am I going to find crate digging in the U.S.? In fact, one of them is from Germany.
Can't get you out of my head. Love that track.
No, it's I should be so lucky. It's from Germany.
Yeah.
I know, but I love that track. I used to rock that early 2000s. It was like every event. The long version with the 32 beat intro.
So yeah, if you got any Kylie, send them my way.
There you go.
Christmas is coming. So, just saying.
Excellent. We have connection. I think we're gonna wrap. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up here before we lose everything. Jay, thanks for jumping in here for a few minutes here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you hanging out with us, and thank you guys for watching and being with us. We'll be back again next Tuesday night with another show. Have yourself a wonderful evening, everyone. Good night.